You know, I like to talk about things that are more positive. This doesn't mean everything is going good. And just so you know, I am not naive, but I'm going to mention this again because I'm getting new subscribers. And you're probably wondering why much of my content is so positive and not everything in comic books is positive. That's because I focus on things I love. There are channels that are super critical and they are needed. They are needed. But there also needs to be the flip side of that. That doesn't mean all my opinions are correct. That does not mean you will agree with everything I say. But when you come to my channel, you will know this. I'm going to talk about things that I like. And I have said before, it is not all over for comic book stores, in my opinion. When I go to my local comic book store, I talk with pretty much everyone there. We sit and we have geek conversations that last for 45 minutes to an hour sometimes. And when I go to the comic book store, I generally know what I'm looking for. I'll go in, I will know exactly what I'm looking for. I will either go pick it up or ask if they have it. Maybe I missed it. They'll, find it or let me know where it's at if I've missed it. And sometimes I'll check some of the back issues and pick up something that I'd heard about, wanted to read, but did not get a chance at the time. But more often than not, I'll go in there and I'm like, oh, there's this new thing I knew nothing about. And a lot of times, my comic book shop, my local comic book shop will introduce me to things that I did not even know was coming out. I cannot pay attention to everything going on. I have a regular job and a life. Anyway, I wanted to get into this article right here from Bounding into Comics. And this doesn't mean we're out in the clear. This doesn't mean everything is all good now, but this is a slightly good sign. Comic book stores coming back to life thanks to Absolute, DC, Ultimate Marvel, Energon Universe, and Invincible. And I will say what this does, this tells the comic book shop owners, which they've already known. I don't think this is something that they didn't know, but this tells the comic book shop owners and it tells the publishers what fans want to see, because these are the items that are moving units. After the last 4 years proved to be the absolute worst for the Western comic book scene, with readership collapsing so catastrophically that many feared the once vibrant industry was well and truly dead. Recent leap of faith reboot initiatives like Absolute DC, Ultimate Marvel, and Energon Universe lines, as well as renewed interest in Image's Invincible series, have miraculously led to a genuine uptick in not just overall sales, but also direct purchases from local comic shops. And there's, for me, seen from Absolute Batman, for me, local comic book shops provide something that I'm not sure you can get strictly from the internet. I'm not one of these people that will rail on the internet and tell you, oh, the internet is terrible. We don't need the internet, nothing on the internet. I don't mind the internet. I don't have a problem with the internet. The issue that I have sometimes is where the internet is made the end all be all. For me, it's not the end all be all. I love to go and talk to people about geek stuff physically. While the ins and outs of just what led to the 2020s comic book implosion number so high that they could fill an article all their own, a deep dive into Dark Crisis alone would make for an afternoon worth reading. The general situation was perhaps best summarized by Coliseum of Comics proprietor Phil Boyle, who in November 2023 in November 2023 open letter to Marvel and DC, as submitted by ICv2 and Bounding Into Comics, decried fans, retailers, and creators have all suffered under the recent corporate mandates. Where did it go off the rails? It's not so much a conundrum to anyone with 2 active brain cells and a list of back issues they need to complete their runs. Comics, first and foremost, have always been entertainment. Sure, collectible entertainment, which justifies the cost to entertainment ratio, but along the way, the immediate sale and false bolstering of numbers through variant covers, convoluted events, and incessant reboots left the considerations of the fans behind. And these are all true comments. Like I said, the main point of me for this article is the fact that I knew there was a pendulum swing, but in my mind, I thought to myself, and I think this is bearing true. I thought at some point there will be enough writers that get back to good storytelling that many will realize, hey, I know we focused on a lot of other stuff, but we really do need to just get back to good storytelling and maintain the integrity of these comic books that fans love. Character swapping, gender bending, and changing sexual orientation of beloved characters fell flat with Wednesday warriors who supported the industry for decades. The crowd of new readers that the changes were meant to attract didn't translate to one-for-one swap, leaving a declining customer base. And this is primarily because the people who read comic books, people like you and me, if you're following my channel, more than likely you read comic books, you love comic books probably for as long as I've loved comic books. We're not really into gimmicks. We're into good storytelling. I don't really care about all the, peripheral things that they try to throw at comics or people care about. If the story is good, and this is not a popular opinion. Again, just so you know, I talk about things that I like. When I saw, for instance, Jane Foster's Thor run, this is where I always say Marvel and DC, when they lose fan capital, they can't do things that are interesting because they've browbeat fans with so many other things that they just won't accept it. I didn't mind the Jane Foster Thor run. I read it. I didn't have an issue with it. But I do understand why people did have an issue with it. And again, that's where Marvel lost fan capital. To make things more difficult on the retail side, and a very deliberate abuse of both the final order cutoff system and retailers' goodwill toward publishers, we constantly have to FOC an issue to issue out rather than next issue. This makes ordering a guess. Throw in 4 covers on number 5, then 6 on number 6, one of the which is Art Germ and another by Scotty Young. And the number 7 has 5 covers with neither cover artist, and number 8 has celebrity appearance cover, and it's consistent and a very deliberate shell game, forcing retailers to guess on nearly every next issue. And yeah, that definitely presents a problem for retailers. So I'm waiting for this article to get to the goods because I didn't read it in advance, but I'm hoping they get to the goods pretty soon. This is, sometimes I like Bounding Into Comics and I like Fandom Pulse, and I get it. We definitely need outlets that cover the things in comic books that are uncomfortable, things that people don't like. But come on, guys, you gotta do some positive stories as well. Even if you gotta cover a bunch of independent things, cover some positive stories. I would love to go to these websites a lot more, but I go and everything is negative. And I know, I get it. The comic book industry is in a very interesting situation, but there is, because I do this, I search for things I love. There is things going on out there that are positive and that are good. And I think one of the problems we run into is if we constantly focus on those things that are not good, we will never draw attention to the things that are actually going on that are good. And I think that actually presents a problem. And though the industry genuinely teetered on the brink in 2023, it appears they took this wake-up call to heart, as a recent analysis of official sales data provided by ICv2 CEO Milton Griepp shows a significant boom in comic interest across the past 2 years, with sales in 2024 up 73% from 2019. That is astronomical. The trend is continuing in 2025 because there's a lot of books, especially in the independent space, that I will say have provided supreme enjoyment. Even comic books that you wouldn't think of. I've brought up before. DuckTales. Look, if you're looking for something that is genuinely good and genuinely just fun stories, DuckTales, the ones that I've read have provided that. I can't speak for every book, but the ones that I've read have been good. But perhaps more impressive was the fact that a significant and growing number of these sales were coming not from big box retailers like Target, Walmart, or Amazon, but rather actual comic book shops, as dollar sales and comic shops went up by about 13.3% in 2024, with sales in the hook channel, i.e. Major retailers, drop slightly, leading to the gap between the two narrowing, for the first time in 15 to 20 years. And it shows some panels from, I think this is the Dan Mora Transformers books, which I've not gotten there yet. I'm only on number 6. I'm going to do the trade paperbacks and then catch up that way. The spread between graphic novels and comics narrowed in 2024 for the first time in years, another reversal of a long-time trend. While graphic novels still account for over 76% of dollar sales, graphic novel sales increased by only 1.3% year over year, while comics grew 12.2%. It's healthier than what it was. And it gives me at least some degree of a sense that things, I'm not saying, it's all good now, so don't take that the wrong way, but it could possibly turn around. Like, people could get the point that, yo, you got to write something good. And look, I don't know about you. For me, this is just me. There are comic writers where if I see their post on social media, I don't necessarily agree with what they might say or do on social media. That doesn't matter to me if they can maintain writing a good story. That's irrelevant, right? You're never going to agree with any person 100% across anything. And I know different people have differing views on that. I'm okay with that. But as long as there is a good story written, I can enjoy, I'm here for it. 2025 is shaping up to be a good year for comic shops, with sales from January through August by stores using the ComicHub POS system up 27% compared to the same period in 2024. That's double the 13.3% increase from 2023 to 2024. The 2025 increase in graphic novel and comic sales were nearly identical, and the uptick was slightly higher in the first 4 months of the year at 29%. Then the May to August period, when it was 25%. The back issue market also appears to be shifting from collectors to readers, which is a good thing. If you were around for the 90s, one of the biggest things that was a problem in the 90s for comic books was speculators. It wasn't about the readers. The speculators came into the market and they really messed things up, in my humble opinion. Let's see where I'm at. Shifting from back issues. It says the back issue market also appears to be shifting from collectors to readers, with retailers reporting that sales of slab comics are down. The sale of inexpensive reader copies are up because people are now interested in just reading comic books again. That is what produces a healthy comic book market, not speculators, not people collecting just for the purpose of making money on this exclusive issue. You got to get, because look, you might get a person here and there that'll buy this exorbitantly expensive slab book, but that's not going to be the norm. That's not going to be your everyday cash flow. Griepp, however you say his name, also noted that according to personal interviews with a number of shop owners, this boom has also seen younger readers making their way to the local comic shops as a significant departure from generations past. The reason for this is inexpensive, accessible, high-quality content, said the CEO. They're buying absolute, but things like the DC and Marvel Digest format are also popular. And of course, this is seen from, I believe, Absolute Wonder Woman. I've not really been able to get into that one. To this end, Griepp confirmed that graphic novel sales were also on the rise, with DC's Absolute line, Marvel's Ultimate Universe, Image's Invincible series, and Skybound's Energon universe, which currently features original characters alongside those from Transformers, G.I. Joe, and Mask, easily proving the hottest sellers. However, he also noted there is a problem, though, which is that the success is hampered by the fact that there's not always availability to comic stores of the graphic novels they want to get. And I think there are two reasons for that. One, obviously, the chaos in distribution that's been happening since the beginning of the year. This year, that's been a problem. And then also just the surprise that publishers are experiencing is how well some of their books are selling. And so they're not necessarily prepared in terms of the amount of inventory they have available. And that's good. That's a better problem to have than what we have had in, the current past. Closing out his time, Griepp beamed, "We've got a new world with comics, where comics are growing faster than graphic novels. Comic stores are growing faster than the book channel. We've got growth from readers instead of just collectors. We've got younger comic consumers. We've got new audiences coming in from sources like web novels and webtoons. We've got manga as a force. We've got digital stirring. We've got distribution transforming, and the data flow rebuilding. That to me, puts us in a totally different world than we were in over 18 months ago. Looking toward the future, he ultimately challenged his peers. How do publishers nurture the kind of creativity that has created success like Invincible, the Ultimate line, and like Absolute in particular, and build on that in the future by making good relationships with their creators?" I think it's simple. I think it's simple, and I think sometimes the simple solution is often avoided. Just write good stories. Don't focus on any of this other peripheral stuff, all of the trying to attract these people that don't really care about comic books. What us geeks want, we don't want anything but good stories and good art. And don't change characters that we know and love. Create new characters. That's one of the things I've brought up in the past is I think what the big publishers need to do, find talented people that can create new characters instead of messing with established characters. Now you can do a one-off story or slightly modify a character a little bit, but it can't be a drastic change, and you can't depart from what we know of that character. But this can be done. This can be done. The comic book industry can be salvaged. Things can be fixed. Now, will they be fixed? I'm not going to tell you they are. I'm not going to go out on a limb and say, oh, yeah, we're doing all good now. I'm not going to do any of that. But I will say, younger readers is a good sign. Because look, as much as us older readers who love comic books, we're going to come and we're going to read comic books, but there's certain things that older readers like me are not going to accept and we're just not going to buy. And to attract younger readers, now I don't know that this is 100% true, so take this with a grain of salt. I know for me, some younger people will come to me that are not into comic books, and they know I've collected comic books since I was a young man. They will come to me and ask me about what to look into or not to look into. And look, even though I don't cover what I don't like on this channel, it's not what I do, but in private, if you were to talk to me about what's good and what's not, look, I'm not going to pull any punches. I'm going to let you know, yeah, this, and this right here, yeah, don't go anywhere near that. It's just not good. These are the things that are decent. These are the things that are good. And these are the things that are magnificent. You really do need more of that to encourage younger readers, because people like me will create videos about books that I love. But there are many creators, and I'm thankful for them, that will be a lot more critical and will point the proper fingers in the proper directions when things are not done right. But overall, I'm excited to this end. I think things can be turned around. Will they be turned around? We'll see.